For this afternoon and tonight, a significant winter storm, including heavy snow with limited trainings.
Hello, and welcome to the SnowBrains podcast, where it's my job to interview the most intelligent people in the snow sports industry and pass their fascinating knowledge onto you, our listeners. I'm your host, Miles Clark. I'm a professional free skier, a mountain guide, an Alaska heli ski guide, a UC Berkeley molecular cell biology graduate, the founder and CEO of SnowBrains, and I once had a real job. I really did. I worked in a cubicle in downtown Oakland, California on the 18th floor of the State Building as a research associate for the Department of Health Services Occupational Health Branch during college and just after college. My absolute low point was showing up so hungover to work one day after a big Cal ski team party that I simply crawled under my desk, curled up in the fetal position, and pulled my chair in so it would look like my desk was vacant, and just passed out. My boss's cubicle was adjacent to mine, and he definitely noticed my pathetic debauchery. He simply slid the chair out, pulled me up onto my feet, and kindly told me I should go home. I was the worst office worker. My guest today is Dan Egan. Dan has been in 13 Warren Miller movies and was a big part of the extreme skiing movement in the 90s. He has literally skied all over the entire globe. In 2001, Powder Magazine called Dan one of the most influential skiers of our time. In 2006, Dan was inducted into the U.S. Skiing and Snowboarding Hall of Fame. Dan was a founding member of the North Face Extreme team with Scot Schmidt. Dan is the author of 30 Years in a White Haze, a book about ski bumming the world and skiing some of the most unique locations on Earth, including the Berlin Wall, the Middle East, Yugoslavia, Romania, and more. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you. Having a good summer?
Oh, man, it's been, well, to be honest, I've been in Mammoth all summer. It's been perfect and skiing and great. And now I'm in Park City. And Park City is so hot in the summertime. It's insane. So I'm up here roasting, but that's why I have it's kind of dark in here because I have all the window shades drawn. But one of the things I always like to ask people is when did you ski last?
I ski every spring in Val d'Isère, France, right up until they kick us out, and they kept the season open till May 6th this year. So, it was a phenomenal spring in France. It was outrageous. Snowed every week.
Well, I heard that Europe was a little bit dry, and then the spring was terrific.
It was amazing. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear it. How many days did you ski this season?
I don't really count anymore. And I don't know that I ever really did count, but I ski a lot. If I'm not on an airplane traveling to where I'm going, I'm usually skiing. So it's a lot of days. It's not what it used to be back in the day. I think way back, those numbers were well into the hundreds. But these days, I don't know. I think I'm settling in around 80 somewhere.
That's still a ton of days, Dan. I love it. Well, today, Dan, I really want to dig into your huge impact in the ski industry. I think one of your biggest impacts is the Warren Miller movies is how I know you. And, your book now, 30 Years in a White Haze, very exciting. I want to learn more. You got crazy ski stories. I'm hoping to get some stories maybe you haven't told too much before. Thanks. And induction to the Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame. Congratulations and more. There's just a lot to talk about here. So I'm going to start with the quick and dirty 3-minute life story. We'll do some rapid fire, and then we're going to dig even deeper after that. So if you don't mind, I love it. I do this with everybody I hire at SnowBrains. And I just decided, I need to do this with everybody I meet. I might as well do it on podcast. And I know I'd like to hear yours. So could you tell us your quick and dirty 3-minute life story? And if it goes over 3 minutes, that's fine.
Well, big family. Grew up, with 6 brothers and sisters. And, my mom's solution for keeping everybody entertained was to tip the house over and get all the kids outside. So, it was everybody just get outside. My mom grew up on a hill in Boston. My grandfather's house was the highest hill in the city. And in the 40s, my mom used to ski down the medium strip of the parkway on wooden skis and leather boots.
Wow.
And my mom was a gym teacher, so she loved sport. When we finally left Boston, we moved to the suburbs. We lived on a hill. So we did everything. We snowboarded, we snurfered, we skied, we sledded, we built toboggan tracks. We had go-karts, we did everything up on that hill. And as long as we kind of kept it a little bit inside the boundaries, we didn't get in too much trouble. We built jumps into the neighbors' yards and all those sort of things. I'm talking leather ties, ski boots, nothing crazy, not a big hill, but fun. And that's kind of how we saw life, was to be outside and have fun. And eventually my mom signed everybody up for the Blizzard Ski Club. And every Saturday she'd put all the kids and my dad on that bus. And that bus would take us up north. And we took regular ski school lessons from Paul and Paula Villar Ski School, Egon Zimmerman Ski Schools. Right up until I was 16, I took ski lessons. I wasn't a race kid or a mountain kid. I'd show up at ski school and get a patch on my shoulder when I went to the next group and took lessons. And the Austrians were great about drilling, sidestepping, power sliding, wedge turn, stepping, all this, always motion, always drills. And when I started ski racing at 14, 15 at the local hill, Blue Hills right outside of Boston, closest ski area to any major city in the country, just was natural for me to ski at night in the shadows on the ice and not think anything of it. And, did pretty good on that hill. So I just figured I'd do good on the next one. And that's kind of how it went. So I always had this idea that I was good and I could compete. And that's how I attacked everything. And, right through high school to the state championships and on, I just was in the game. I wasn't on the top, but I was in the game. So John, sort of ran away from home when he was 16 and went to become a ski bum at Sugarbush, Vermont.
Wow.
And my mom forbid me to visit him. She said it was not age appropriate. And wow. I used to save up my paper route money and sneak away on Friday afternoons, go to the city and take the Greyhound bus to Vermont. And get in a shitload of trouble on Sunday nights. And John, I'd hang out with John and his buddies. And years later, I told my mom, you were right. It was not age appropriate for me to be, those hippies in the 70s. And but I learned a lot. And, when John left Boston, he had a pair of, Olin Mark IVs and Hansen boots. And 3 years
dad
later,
had those.
Yeah, they were great, injected with wax. And 3 years later, he was on the World Pro Mogul Tour.
Wow.
And the World Pro Peugeot Race Tour too. And by 1979, he skied in his first Warren Miller movie. So it was like something we had never thought of. It was something I had never seen. I was sitting in the theater and saw my brother in the movie.
Unreal.
And one day I was 14 and he was going to a pro race, and the pro race was at Neshoba Valley right outside of Boston. He was in his padded gear. He had his padded stretch pants and padded sweater. And he told me, Dan, I'm going to work today.
Oh,
and, I was 14. I was like, I hadn't even thought about it. I'm like, what? And I think that one statement changed my life. I was like, there's another way. And I had seen his wacko ski bum buddies making living doing other things. And so it was kind of in the back of my head that you can make a living doing a lot of different things. And I think that was the beginning of the Egan brothers, the beginning of what we were to do together.
Well, and I appreciate you guys, because I wouldn't be where I am without what you guys did, sort of paving the way, and we'll get more into that. But I got to guide in Antarctica with John.
Oh,
so that was really, really cool. So for me, it's like, holy shit, John Egan's here. Like, wow, okay. So really cool, and fantastic to get to meet you, if albeit digitally here. Oh, but yeah, continue. And where did it go from there?
Well, it's John and I always, spoke about skiing together. John would come to my house. He came to one high school race. At the end of the race, he said, if you did half of what you would have won.
Oh.
And I was like, whoa, half, only half. And obviously
what do you mean?
I hadn't done that. Right. So I was like, that bar was kind of high. And, as I got into college, John became this legend at Sugarbush. There's stories of John flying as high as the towers on the trail, and
right.
Nobody to date has ever broke his, the number of runs he did on a certain trail, Steins and the Mall and all those sort of things. And he's the only guy ever to compete on the World Pro Mogul Tour and World Pro Race Tour in the same year.
Unreal. Wow.
So, that bar was pretty high for me. And, people, of course, I was a younger brother. I wanted to be that good. And, most of his friends were very good at reminding me I wasn't that good. And so, there was like a constant thing to get better. So I called him up my sophomore year in college and told him I was going to drop out of school. He did not really welcome the call. He goes, "You can come up here and ski at Sugarbush, but you have to promise me you'll go back to college in the spring." So I told him I would do that. And so I launched my ski bum career in the winter of 83, 84.
Okay.
And washed dishes and got a job at one of his buddies and, skied every day and did as much recreational things that we shouldn't have done every day to keep skiing. And, it was really fun. And I got fired from my dishwashing job in March. Yeah, exactly. But it was a crazy story. I had a buddy from college came up to visit me, and I had the flu. So I didn't go to work that day. And my buddy and my roommate, as we always did at the end of the night, broke into the bar. That's what we always did.
Smart. It's a smart move.
Yeah. That night, the owner's wife came down and caught him in the bar.
Oh, no.
And she fired me.
Oh, no.
And I said, "Wait, I wasn't there." She goes, "You definitely would have been there. I know you."
Interesting.
So
wow, reputation. Fired on reputation.
On reputation. So I bought a one-way People Express plane ticket and flew to Tahoe.
Oh.
And it was my first trip out west. That's the first time John had lived in Tahoe and he had friends out there, Tom Day and those guys. Yeah. I met Scot Schmidt for the first time and Kevin Andrews. And I was not hanging out with them. I just, would see them. Uh-huh. I tried to ski one run with Schmitty, but he totally dusted me. And, but I kind of I'm like, well, that was cool. And then I thumbed from Tahoe all the way back to Denver. And I went through Salt Lake and then I found my way up the steamboat. And then I came down through Keystone and Breck and Vail. And it was time to go back to school. I had promised John that I would go back to school. And the season was ending. And so I got another ticket on People Express and went home for $75 and went to school. Wow. And and I was a soccer player and I, wanted to keep playing ball. So I played my junior year and then
played soccer in college. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
That was my goal was to play soccer.
Okay.
And I had been recruited to play and I took an extra year off from high school. I redshirted to play at the school. And, it was a big, 5-time national championship school to play. And I wanted to be part of that.
And which school was it?
It was Babson College.
Great.
And,
thank you.
So I went and I played. I went to school. I caught up with my classes and I played in the fall and winter came around. So I was like, I'm going to Tahoe. So I moved to Tahoe for the season and washed dishes and flipped burgers and poured coffee at the Clock Tower Cafe. The owner was amazing. He loved ski bums and he would hire a lot of us. Uh-huh. And I had saved enough money that summer to prepay a trip to go heli skiing.
Whoa.
So I had pre-bought a $2,500 heli trip.
Wow.
And it was John and all his buddies, and we went up to Valemont, but I didn't have any money. I had spent the money on that summer to get the trip.
Right.
And so when I left Tahoe to go to meet everybody in Seattle, I left with $80.
Nothing.
John and I always had a thing. You go to an airport, meet in a bar. So I stumbled through Seattle till I found those guys in the bar, and I instantly bought everybody a round of drinks. And then the next day we skied Crystal. So after the round of drinks and the day of Crystal, I was down like $20.
Right. And
we pointed it north to Valemont. And we rented this big caddy. It was a red caddy. And we had John and his buddies. And we went up and partied our brains out and heli skied all week.
Wow.
But I didn't have any ride home.
Or any money.
And so one of John's friends had driven out there and he said, well, if it was a pickup truck. He goes, you can live in the back of the truck but there's no room up front. So I jumped in the back with a sleeping bag and we went everywhere. We went to Whistler.
Oh, wow.
We went everywhere. And he told me eventually he'd take me back to Tahoe. Well, a month later, I'm still in the back of the truck and we're having a great time. And Dennis, kind of sponsored the whole trip on my behalf and eventually said, dude, he had to go back to New York. So he flew me. He said, here's your ticket home. So
that was nice.
So I end up back in Tahoe. I hadn't seen my roommates for a month. I hadn't seen Jim, the clock tower, for a month. Walk in and Jim at the clock tower goes, I bet, of course he held the pass, right? He had my pass.
Oh, right.
So he's like, I bet you miss skiing. I go, I do. He goes, well, go take a day off, go skiing, and I'll put you back on the schedule. So
no shit.
It was a dream, right?
Wow, that is the dream.
So that was kind of like, my roommates weren't very happy because I didn't have any money, couldn't pay rent, the whole thing. But that's how it was, right? Back then, the fingers didn't really get skied. I'm amazed.
Eric Delorier said that.
Yeah, they never really got skied. I mean,
and this is the fingers at Palisades Tahoe for
Palisades
those.
Tahoe. Yeah. You would ski underneath the lift, kind of, but on the looker's right, they didn't get skied.
Right.
Schmidt had jumped them for the opening of the movie for Steep and Deep, and John and Kevin Andrews had jumped them, but there wasn't that much. There were never tracks in them.
Right.
So my whole thing back then was, if I made a decision to ski something at Tahoe alone, then I had mastered it. If I skied with one of my ski bum buddies, we were just hacking around. But if I had the guts to go do it alone, then okay, I was getting somewhere. So I went and skied the chute on the right. I don't know what they call it on the fingers. It's narrow. You got to kind of get in. You got to jump out. And I augured in the middle of this thing.
Ooh!
And I tumbled through there and left my ski pole in the middle.
That's a bad place to fall.
Bad place to fall. And it's really, so the next morning, I'm doing the coffee thing at the counter of the Clock Tower Cafe, and all the patrol and all the the ski instructors like, that's your pole, kid? They didn't, I was a ski bum. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's my pole. And so they ribboned me, right? And finally, like after day 2, I'm like, why don't you go get it? I go, if you're so good, why don't you go get it? But nobody go get my pole. Right.
No. Yeah.
So a week later, I go up there and I'm like, I'm going to go get my pole. So I skied the chute, picked up the pole and skied the whole thing. Right.
Nice.
And that changed, at the clock tower, the conversation changed. And hey, you got your pole, bro. That's sick. Everything kind of like came around. Right.
Yeah.
That second winter was a little bit of a coming of age for me. I felt like I was getting somewhere with my skiing, and I went back to school that summer, and the school kind of said, we don't really dig your program. So we'll give you, we want you to graduate with your class, which meant I needed to go to school for 12 months, May to May, and give you my last year playing ball at the school and ski 1 year in the ski team. And that'd be great by me. So that's what I did. The next winter, John and we kind of launched off on our own to do our thing together. It was in that winter, I was in school. John and Tom Day went to shoot for Warren Miller in Verbier. And
in Verbier, Switzerland.
Verbier, Switzerland with John Faulkner. And John stayed in Europe for like 2.5 months. He didn't come home. I was at school getting postcards. Then what the hell am I doing in here? And when he came back in the spring, we started windsurfing and hanging out, and he was no hurry to go back to work. And I was just getting out of college. And the next winter, we ended up broke and in Summit County. And
Summit County, Colorado.
Mm-hmm. And John goes, on Fridays, there's a mogul contest at Highlands. They give away $500. Let's go make some money.
Ooh.
So we beelined it for the Highlands on a Friday. And some of the guys had remembered him from his days on the Saab Pro Tour.
Okay.
And I had never competed in bumps. I had a pair of 207 GF skis and, had never competed in moguls. And we signed up as the Egan brothers from Vermont, sponsored by your mama and my mama. And John won $300 that day.
Whoa,
And,
that's huge back then.
yeah. And all the boys were like, Rawls and all these guys, they were like, are you guys here for the start of the World Pro Tour? And we said, yeah. Where is it? And it's tomorrow at Vail. So we took John's $300, who we drove the Vail. We entered the contest as the Egan brothers from Vermont, sponsored by your mama and my mama. John went to the round of 16. I went to the round of 8, my second mogul contest ever.
Damn.
We won our money back. We made a little money, and we never looked back. We just never looked back. It was like we were here, we were out west. We were the Egan brothers, and that's what we just started telling everybody. Yeah.
I love it. And it just went off from there, which we'll get into more. Wow. Well, so thank you so much for that. That was terrific. And just for our listeners, I made a couple notes here. So I think the chute you might have skied on the fingers of Palisades Tahoe might have been Anger Bretson's.
Okay. Nice.
I think that's right. Yeah. I mean, that's my guess from how it sounds. I've fallen in there too. And where is the clock tower? Is that in Tahoe City, or where was the clock tower?
No, the clock tower. It was a cafe right across from the Chamois.
Okay, cool.
Right before you went into the cookie shop, it was right there on the left. There's a clock tower. And
so kind of
it used to be a cafe. It's not anymore. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So maybe in the Olympic House there. And then Valemont is up in Canada. I think British Columbia or Alberta, I forget, but way up north. And they might make a ski resort someday. So I just want to clarify that fun stuff. But so rapid fire questions is my favorite segment. So we'll just jump right into it. I'll start firing questions away, and you take as long or short as you want to answer these. So the quick and dirty is, you kind of hit this before, but how many days do you ski per year?
I try not to start skiing too early in the season, because then I don't return phone calls, emails, or anything. So I know that about me. So the minute I start skiing, it's all things are off. So I usually wait to after Thanksgiving, and I'll ski, from December 1st right to the end of April. And if I'm not on a plane, I'm typically skiing, very few days off and very few days at home.
I love it. And how many of those days might be backcountry days?
For like skinning and that sort of thing, not a whole lot. Even in Europe, we're pretty much lift access backcountry. So, they're probably, 8 to 10 days of heli in there somewhere. And
nice.
But, I wouldn't consider myself a touring skier from that aspect.
What's your biggest accomplishment in skiing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I want staying alive. I'll tell you that. It's a good question. It's been a great journey for me. I think the Hall of Fame was a real honor. It has, and sort of more than anything, I don't know if it is the greatest accomplishment, but more than anything, it put my career into perspective for me, because I had never really looked back at it or put it in perspective before. I was just always doing it. But I'm really proud of where John and I went, the places we went, the things we did. They weren't everyday things. I mean, in Candide's movie, some of Candide's stuff, like when you see him at the Great Wall of China and all this, he's at 3 or 4 places we were 20 years before him. So
so cool.
The places where we went and the things that we did before people had thought about it, I'm really proud of that. And how we funded it, how we created a business out of it.
What might be your biggest accomplishment in life?
I love living. I love living. And what I say, I have no plan B. My plan A is my plan B. Yeah. So my biggest accomplishment in life is not turning back, not dropping out. It's not glorious. I'm not eating chocolate covered bonbons with my feet up. I work, and I like to work, and I work hard at the projects that I do. And I think really my biggest accomplishment is being a good son, good dad, good uncle, good friend, and really never looking back. Just keep moving forward.
How do you define yourself?
Just I wake up swinging.
I like that.
The Irishman, and I have a lot of perspective, I understand that my opinions, I don't even believe in them. They're just sports. I like to josh with people. I like to, hear other perspectives. And I think, that wrapped into what I'm really proud of is helping others change their perspective. You know, my camps and the work I do and the speaking, it's all about how to free yourself from the critical mind and how to move towards observation and stop judging. So it's a lifelong process for a kid from Boston not to judge, but it's been a worthwhile thing.
I love that. I remember I heard one of your quotes say something like, the first thing you need to do when you're a skier is not think about how you ski, something along those lines.
Yeah, you know, what you think about your own skiing is none of your business. Like,
that's it.
Just stop with this. Like, everybody's after the perfect turn of this and that. And I'm like, what? Why? Well, you're missing the whole point of why we're out. And, you know, Warren always said, Dan, just go make the place look prettier. Just leave your mark. Make it prettier. You don't got to do any, you know, I look at what everybody's doing today and I'm like, why are they doing it? I'm not attached to it. I don't get it. I wouldn't throw a backflip. I just want it to look good. I don't know if the backflip's cool or not. I don't, maybe it is, but I don't know why somebody didn't turn or when they landed. Like, I don't get it. But, you know, like Jason Leventhal makes fun of me because I still think, you know, an 88 or a 96 is a fat ski, right? Like, so, you know, there's a lot of things I don't get, I guess.
Where's your favorite place to ski?
Yeah, right wherever my feet are. I mean, I went back to Blue Hills this winter and we skied at Blue Hills and there was mud, leaves and snow right outside of Boston. I mean, it's like, it was awesome, right? And, you know, I love standing up in the big couloir, big sky and dropping that down. It's great. But I don't need to be there to have fun. Like, if I'm skiing, I'm good. And I think a lot of people don't fully understand that. They'll say like, oh, I'm a little nervous to ski with you. I'm like, what? Like, look, I have to wait for everybody. Like, no offense, but I have to so if I didn't wait for people, I'd never ski with anybody. So like, I don't mind waiting. It's nice to have a social day of skiing. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And I like to ski. I like to chairlift. I like to talk. I don't like 8-packs because I don't know who the hell's on the chair with me. Like, they've got headphones on and talking. Now they wear helmets, and then they put a woolly thing over their helmet, and then they got an ear. Like, nobody's talking to anybody, and it's like, I just have a wool hat. Like, it's plenty. Helmets are warmer. I'm like, my hat's pretty warm. Like, I'm not cold. Like, it's a simple thing. I don't get all that we've built into skiing these days.
If you had to pick your favorite mountain ranges, what might they be? You know,
I love the Alps because of the culture of the Alps. I love the culture of the Alps. Some of the most stunning mountains in the world are the Cedar Mountains in Lebanon. You know, they're outrageous.
Oh, wow.
They look right over the Med, you know, like, wow. It's sick to ski there. And, you know, you've been to Antarctica, you know how beautiful it is down there. And, you know, Baffin Island, you know, and all our explorations and the trips we did into the Arctic, and you know for this from your own experience, there's nothing like the world of white. Like,
it's
when
wild.
You're that far away from life, only certain things matter, and that's living. Like, you don't give a shit about what's in your pocket or what. It's living. Like, you have to deal with the elements and deal with living. So, you know, these places are beautiful, and I like the simplicity of mountains. That's why we went to ski the Atlas Mountains. That's why we went to the Julian Alps. That's why we went to these places, because I wanted to learn about mountain cultures in those places. Mm-hmm. And they are beautiful, but I don't know that one is better. I just don't know that.
What would you do if you couldn't ski?
Yeah, dude, I'd be unemployed, bro. Like,
I love it.
I don't know what the hell I would do if I didn't ski. Like, I never, you know, I thought about that. Like, would I have a job? I don't know. Like, I don't know what the hell I would do. I don't know that I live to ski, but I sure act like it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I love writing and I love the productions I do. So I'd probably do something creative. Maybe I would have some money. I don't know. If I didn't, I'd either be unemployed or rich. I don't know which it would be. Yeah.
What scares you the most in the mountains?
You know, what scares me in the mountains is people that don't know they should be scared in the mountains. And when I'm guiding and with clients, that scares me.
Yeah.
And I always like to remind, you know, I know my job is to think about the worst case scenario. Everybody else, they can think about the best day. My job is like, I got to get them home. So, leaving somebody behind scares the shit out of me. And being lost in storms and being lost in the clouds are nerve wracking.
Yes.
And I'm a sailor. So being in the fog is nerve wracking. And, I've been there and I've sweated it out. So my goal is to return home. And when you've been there and hey, can I jump off this? Can I do that? And I always say,
God.
Like, do you want a great moment or you want a good week? Like, it's up to you. Like,
that's a good thing to say.
Yeah. Don't put everybody at risk because you want your moment. Like, if the heli has to come back in to rescue you, we're going to get stuck. Like, just think about the group. And it's hard for people to do that. So what scares me is like these days, I don't want to be cliffed out. Like,
no,
guiding in the Alps, you just don't want to be cliffed out, and that's scary. And it almost happened to me once this winter, in a place well. Like, I just got sucked into the snow and I went a little far, right? So it happens. I don't want to be cliffed out. I've lost my jumping gene, so I have like no interest in hucking at all.
Good.
Yeah. And so those things, but yeah, I don't like to see other people get hurt, and I don't want to leave anybody behind.
I'm going to remember that line when I'm guiding. Yeah. You want a good moment? You want a good week? That's a great way to say it. Cause some people are just chomping at the bit. What do you love most in the mountains?
Well, it returns me to my youth, mate. I mean, I become a kid. Like, I think about being a kid. Like, I think about my dad putting us all in the family truckster at 5 a.m. Like, in the back of his mind, why did he do it? Why did he do it? He must have thought he was going to have a good day too, right? Like, it had to be in his head somehow. And I think, that it returns me to the place of my youth, and I like it. I like it. I like going back to that place where there's a movie going on in my head. The chatter has changed inside. I'm in the moment. I don't turn to slow down. Who does that? I don't know why people do that. That makes no sense to me. And I turn to enter into the transition between turns. Like, the purpose of turning is to go into that beautiful place in between where nothing happens.
Weightlessness. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's the magic. That's the silence between the notes. So for me, that's why I do it. That's what it returns me. I don't know that, I don't buy into the rigmarole, in the words of, Joe Biden, it's malarkey, right? They're like, I need to have that for satisfaction in my life. I don't like I'm not trying to live my fullest life or any of that nonsense. I just like it. And I try and touch it as often as I can. I want to be reminded of it. I'm capable of living without it. It's okay. I've skied a lot, but every time I get back into it, I like it. And I want to do more of it.
Feels good.
Yeah.
What's the funniest accident you've had in the mountains, or a funny story?
Wow, they're endless. They're endless.
Good.
They're endless. I mean, John and I have had a lot of fun over the years, and one of the things we're really known for was our end of the season sale. We'd open up the doors of the North Face van and sell everything. Like, that's how we would get home, and we would just sell everything. And a lot of the stuff still had tags on it and everything. And we had wrapped up in Seattle up at Crystal. The cameraman made a mistake. We were in the middle of our sale because we had to get home. So John and I had everything for sale in the parking lot. And the cameraman took his ski pants off and laid them up on the roof, on the trunk of his car. And I sold them, right? And so, I sold them. So, the next day, he's like, where am I? I can't find my pants. I'm looking at John. John's like, $200. I'm like, yeah, and
worth it.
I don't think he ever got over it, but but that's how it was. And we had been in Turkey, and haggling is everything in the bazaar, right? You haggle, and there was a coat. I wanted this coat. It was a beautiful leather coat, and I haggled for a couple of days to get this coat.
Oh wow!
I got my coat. I was so happy. And we flew home, and we went right to Island Lake Lodge up in Canada. And we were always up there thinking, why aren't we heli skiing up here? So, I come down to breakfast one day, and John goes, we're flying today. I go, we're flying today? He goes, yeah. I go, how'd you do it? He goes, don't you worry about it. And so we wake up, we eat breakfast, we go out, the heli's there. And I go to get in and the pilot's wearing my coat.
No, that's how you got it. That's why you don't worry.
Don't you worry about it. You don't have to worry about that. So,
was it worth it?
Oh yeah, it was sick. It was great.
All right. Well, that was great stories. Thank you so much. What was the scariest accident you've had in the mountains?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the scariest definitely was the Mount Elbrus disaster in 1990.
Let's skip forward. Would you tell us that story?
It's a long story, but 11 people perished on May 2nd of 1990, and it was still Russia, USSR back then.
Mm-hmm.
We were there on a mountain expedition sponsored by the Patrick Valençant's company, Degree 7.
Okay.
And Patrick Valençant, the godfather of extreme skiing, was John's hero. And when they started becoming distributed in the US, we wanted to be sponsored by them. So we cut a deal with the North Face that allowed us to ski in the North Face films, but ski in the Warren Miller films in Degree 7.
Okay.
And so that we had this deal, and they wanted to celebrate Patrick's life because Patrick had died. Well, you want a dream trip to ski with the American extreme skiers, John and Dan, and Patrick's guides from Chamonix, the guides of the Valençant guides.
Wow,
he had his own,
very cool.
His own schools, yeah. So if you bought any piece of clothing around the world from Degree 7, you got entered into the contest.
Very cool.
So they took 9 people from around the world.
Wow.
And us and our film crew and the guides from Chamonix to Mount Elbrus.
Mm-hmm. Which is 18,000 feet, right? Is the highest peak in Europe.
Highest peak in Europe.
One of the 7 summits.
One of the 7 summits, and not super techy, but a lot of weather, a ton of weather. And this trip was very poorly planned. They had school teachers, people that weren't ready to go to altitude,
right,
and had never been, and us. And, that trip, happened 33 years ago. And John and I have really never sat down to talk about it. Tom Day, the cameraman, we've never sat down to talk about it.
Oh, Tom's never mentioned it to me. Yeah, I didn't get it out of him on the podcast either.
Never talked. Nobody talks
Wow.
about it. The only one that talks about it because I was lost in the storm for 38 hours.
Oh my God.
And I was left alone in a snow cave. And at sometime during the night, a Russian found my snow cave and saved my life.
Really? Wow.
And, we had summited in the storm. We got lost in the storm. And this guy, I don't know all of the details of how he left his snow cave to go look for me.
Wow.
But he did. And I believe I was dead when he found me. My friend who died on that trip died alone in a snow cave, very similar to where I was.
I was so sorry.
And the next day, this guy, Sasha, and we rescued 14 people.
Really?
Got them all the way down to the village.
So it was more than just your group out there in the storm?
Yeah. Well, May Day is a huge holiday in that part of the world. It's the busiest holiday in Eastern Europe, of course, in Russia.
Oh, wow.
The Labor's Day and sort of the Union Day. And they calculated there was probably 13 to 15 expeditions on the mountain that day.
Jeez.
And the storm was so crazy, it blew the door off the refuge. And, we were in 100-mile-an-hour breeze, snowed 5 feet.
Damn.
And it was, it's a full-on, you got to read the book, but it's a full-on story. And really for me, I met my guardian angels. I saw the bright light. I thought I was gone. I was there, I was there. It changed my whole life. I like to say, everything I've done today has been shaped by that experience. And it changed my relationship with my brother. It changed everything, some good, some bad. And, John didn't go for the summit attempt that day. Tom didn't go for the summit attempt that day. I don't know that my brother ever intended to go to the summit, but he never told me that. Tom, back then the camera gear was super heavy. He didn't want to carry it to the summit.
Yeah.
And he had never told me. Tom and I, we're all friends, but, they've never told me about that. And, I was young. I was a kid. Neither one of those two were going to talk me out of that decision.
Right.
The 22-year-old Dan Egan was always going to make that decision. Just the way it was. I was on fire to go. I thought that somehow summiting was going to change my life. I was going to be notable, maybe get another sponsor. I don't know what. It was going to be great. And in the end, I learned a lot. And I learned about making bad decisions, trying to survive, teamwork. It's changed my spiritual life. I don't know that it so much was scary, because at the time when I was freezing to death, I was pretty peaceful and having nice thoughts. So, but it definitely today, like I alluded to before, when I'm in the cloud, when I'm in the muck, when I'm in the soup, I'm on fire. Like it comes back to me. It doesn't leave. And I'm in those situations a lot, but I'm. My joke is, if you're going to get lost in a storm, I'm probably the guy you want to be with. And the thing is, you should have called me before the storm hit, right? Like that's
right.
Yeah, as guides, we're only as good as we can. We got to get there early. We can't show up in the middle of the storm. So,
no.
You got to be there early. And people, unfortunately, in America, North America, we've lost the culture of professionalism. Everybody thinks they can do it on their own. They don't need guides anymore. I took a course. I have my Avies. I don't need that. But that's not Europe. In Europe, it's still a culture of professionalism. It's still an honored technique and profession. But here in this country, we just say, I have my Avie too. What are you talking about? Like, I don't need your help. But okay, what do you get for experience? Like, there's a difference. And so my thing is, that was scary. And but like I said, it was a lot. It was a lot of things. A lot of things.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. Sorry about your friend. How many friends have you lost in the mountains?
Well, it's a good question.
Yeah. It's a heavy question.
We've lost a lot of the same friends. My next project is called Dying to Ski.
Okay.
It's a project that documents my 30 lost friends.
30.
30. And we document in this project, we start with the Paul Ruff death in the 80s when he hit Kirkwood.
Mm-hmm. Right. Was that the huge cliff jump?
Yeah. He came up short.
Mm-hmm. That was like a 200-foot cliff or something, right? It's really big.
135.
Wow. Huge.
And he was going to get paid by Mountain Dew if he made it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, scary.
But, Tom and Rob Huntoon were there, and he died in their arms, and it was really sad. But we start with that. We kind of end my book with Paul. And we're going to bring it up, probably up to Hillary Nelson. But if you look at the deaths between, really 88 to now, what you see is, when Paul died, they gave him this much space in Ski Magazine.
Oof.
It was not something that we had ever really witnessed. I mean, there were a few freestylers that had perished from jumps, but there wasn't a thing. The only sport magazine that has a obituary regularly is Ice and Rock, right? Like Ice and Rock has a regular obituary. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But we need one now, and that's sad. But if you look at the frequency of deaths, Paul got this much. Hillary was on CNN.
Yeah.
So the that's a growth of an industry. Mm-hmm. So we follow the growth of the industry, and the growth of the industry under the guise of progression, we have deaths. And, people will paint it that, well, I want to be progressive. Nobody can really tell you what that means. I'm going to push it to the next level. Was that one more spin? I don't know. But, and we've classified these 30 deaths, the legends, Shane and Trevor Peterson and all these guys, the competition deaths, right? And the bucket listers, the guys that, were checking things off and died in the bucket. Yeah. So there's a connection, and, JP Eau Claire, it was a sad death, and they're all sad deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of this idea that dying doing what you love is a good death.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it. And I thought that you had
don't either.
on. So, Rob's heavy with this stuff too. And Gaffney's quote in the last thing Scott Gaffney says in the McConkie movie, Shane would be really pissed off to know he died.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Beautiful line.
Yeah, you're right.
And he would be. He would be.
Yeah.
And so, when we interviewed JPL, Claire's beautiful widow, she said, JP loved me more. And I was in tears. I said, I'm glad you know that. And ever since she said that to me a few years back, I now tell all my friends, all my family, if I die, please say I was at work. Do not say I died doing what I love. I love you more. Just say I died at work. And, I don't have that plan. I'm not manifesting that. I'm just setting the bar for the people in my life to know I'm not choosing my career over you. And I think if we started saying that more, we'd have fewer deaths.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost a lot of people. The Glenn Plake accident where the avalanche came down and wiped out his tent. And
with Remy, yeah.
And Remy, they never found him.
No.
They're in the same tent. They never found Remy.
It's insane.
So, and Plake was reading the Bible.
No.
When that avalanche hit.
Really?
And it took me a few years. I waited before I interviewed him on that, but I wanted to know what he was reading. I wanted the text and the quote and the verse and the phrase. And it's just so amazing. But that was on CNN. Mm-hmm. That, and of course, Glenn is there's no bigger name in skiing than Glenn Plake.
No.
And he belongs on CNN. And I'm glad he made that. But to think that he was laying next to the Remy and they never found him. But T.R. Armstrong, all these guys that we love, and that are gone. So, I'm interested in these stories because there's a lot of untreated trauma in extreme sports. Mm-hmm. And we need a home for it. We need a place to say it's okay, for Sarah Burke and it's okay. Like we're here, we care. And we don't want these stories just to be about another foundation. Like that's great, mm-hmm. but we need to get together on this, and Novus's thing is I don't know if you're going or not.
Oh, it's so sad.
His thing is this week in Park City, and
okay. Oh, good.
Novus. Again, we have tragedies, right? We do, and if we had a union, this would be on the level of concussions.
Yeah,
but we don't. We have no recourse. And who's listening? And who's caring? It's up to us, the storytellers, to tell these stories and to put them in perspective. Sport was designed to enhance our life, not end it. And I think that is what is a return. I think this project's about a return to that.
Well, I'm really excited to see that project when it comes out. And I really appreciate you speaking to this because so many people I ask this question to don't really even answer it and they want to move on. And the people who do, I try to keep them rolling a little bit because I think it's something that's really prevalent in our industry. It's really important, obviously, and it's something we don't talk about. So I really appreciate you giving voice to this. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a corny movie, but The Beach is an amazing movie, right? So the Capra film, if you haven't watched it in a while, everybody go out there and watch it. It's a story about resorts, right? And they find a dream place, and they have their own language and all this sort of thing, and they're going to live in paradise. Like that's Chamonix, that's Tahoe, that's Vail, right? These are Shangri-Las, okay? Yep. But in the Shangri-La, they can't have anybody betray you. You can't, if you betray, you're out. You get hurt, you're out.
Yeah.
And what happens is people get hurt and we don't visit them.
Yeah.
They drop out and we don't go see them. We don't follow up with them because they fell out of the tribe. They couldn't keep up with the herd and we don't look back.
Yeah.
You know, Roy Tuscany's looking back with high fives. He's gathering people up. He's caring for people. And that's the thing, right? Like when I'm in Chamonix, I visit the hospital, mate. That's where I go.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because nobody's going.
Interesting.
You know? And you see the helis every day flying to the hospital. It's like
just
Mac.
Pumping people in there.
Yeah. So, you know, I like to keep in touch and touch base and see what's going on and talk to the families and see what's up because, you know, I do the same with people in jail. I go visit like,
wow.
Why not? Right. Like they're there. They haven't left the planet, you know, let's go check in. What's it feel like? Tell me about your experience. I haven't had it. Like, it's okay. I'm here. You're there. And, you know, I think we've got to take time for each other.
Well, that's great. I have two buddies who are hurt right now, and I don't call them enough. So I'm going to call them right when we get done with this call, because I've been there too. We've been there too, right? And it's true. You get some radio silence. Mm-hmm. How many avalanches have you been in?
Well, how many have I triggered or I haven't been in? So
actually been in, but yeah, triggered too. Tell us all.
Well, yeah, I've never been buried, thank God.
Thank goodness.
I've been sloughed. But never actually caught in a major slide, and and none of that is due to skill.
It's definitely there's a lot of luck out there.
Oh, luck. But you know, as a guide, our job is to go first, right? So going first is scary, and you've got to trigger stuff. And I think, you know, in my talks, corporations and risk management and stuff like that. Look, there's no do-overs. Everybody today wants a do-over. Can I take that back? Can you edit? You know, look, there's no do-over. So I'm only as good as my last decision. I have to make all future decisions on my last bad decision. So if I've taken people down somewhere we shouldn't be, I would love to think I could hike back up, but a lot of times you can't. So I have to now make a decision based on my last decision. And if you take that approach to decision making, you start to slowly make better decisions. And so I try to approach it like that. But, you know, we've kicked off a lot of slides over our lives, right? That's our kick them off and get them started and get them out of here, flush it out. But then there's always the one who doesn't listen. So, you know, we're up in AK where it's a slippery day. We're kicking stuff all over the place. And the one guy got his wife on the cell phone in the back.
Oh, no.
And so by the time he gets up to me, I'm like, dude, put that thing away. And he didn't hear the rap, right? And, you know, so I gave him the rap, but he didn't really hear the rap. So instead of skiing in the slide path that we'd cut, he went and he cut another one. Right. And, you know, the situation, the group's down below, right? This guy's kicked one about to land on the group down below. They're out in the pit. And the bird's coming in going, I'm not landing. Did you guys see what you just did? Right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not coming in. There's consequences and it's hard to become a good listener. People are distracted, phones and music. God, music.
Oh, music got me this winter up in Alaska. Oh, man.
Yeah. Music. Turn off the music.
Yeah. One client was just refusing.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. And, you know, I'm ignorant to it because one, I don't wear a helmet, and two, I don't listen to music like that. So I never assume that they're stopping the music, right? I just think they have an itch or something. So I don't know. It's like I have to get up to speed. But look, I've been at the finish line of the Olympics, okay? And there's a snowboard kid and dancing because of music. And they're in fourth place. So, you know, as a journalist, like, fourth place. You happy? Yeah, it was a great experience. You know, would you change anything? No. Really? You wouldn't consider not listening to the music if it would have put you in a medal position? Well, it's not the music. Well, how do you know? You have no idea what took you off that podium. You have no idea, and you're not willing to explore it. That's to me, that's not like the top level. That's not top level.
Yeah, you should experiment with it for sure. I actually just interviewed Colby Stevenson, who got silver in the big air at the Olympics. And I asked him all about his music, and it was interesting to hear his perspective.
Yeah, no, the kids like it and they're into it. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I think we know a lot about brain chemistry. I do. I think we know.
Well, he did say sometimes when it's not the right song, it doesn't feel as good. So yeah, there is some yin and yang.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever been hurt while skiing?
Well, emotionally, yeah. Well, I've had 4 knee surgeries, but
what were they? ACLs?
ACLs, yeah, on the left knee. It's my good knee now, and it was, I've been knee surgery free for about 20 years. So
wow, that's great.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I mean, I'd never really broken too many bones or stuff like that. I've rung my bell quite a few times,
Yeah.
But I don't know that. Yeah, I always consider the Elbrus thing my injury. Yeah.
You've been on ski trips all over the world. What was your favorite ski trip?
Well, Lebanon was amazing.
Tell me a little more, because I used to hear like when the French ran in Lebanon, you could surf and ski in the same day, and it was out of this world. Not that, it's better now that it's not French run, but I've just heard stories.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to run the 1993 Middle East Peace Ski.
Oh,
and ski the highest peak in Lebanon with one skier from every Middle Eastern country.
Right. And they get a ton of snow, right?
They get a ton of snow. So I got this thing endorsed by the UN, sponsored by Middle Eastern Airlines, and partnered with the American Arab League. And
impressive.
And it was illegal at the time for Americans to go to Beirut, Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard to find an Israeli to join us.
I bet.
But we had to go a year in advance to set up for security.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I got on the plane, there was no flights. You can't fly to Beirut from America. So the Middle Eastern Airlines said, get yourself to Heathrow and go to the Damascus flight and tell me when to go to Damascus and wink twice.
What?
Oh my God. Put you on the Beirut flight.
That's so weird. I love it.
1992.
Wow.
And so I get my ass over to Heathrow and I go and I wink twice and they put me on the Beirut flight. I sit on the plane. I'm the only American male on the plane. Mm-hmm. And there was a few American women who had married Lebanese. They all got out of their seats one at a time, came over to me and said, look, you should get off this plane. I wouldn't let my brother on this plane. Like,
that's scary.
You should not. And I was like, well, you talk about I'm going, peace ski and all this.
Yeah.
And so we had T-shirts from the UN and everything. And so I got picked up by a Christian Shiite at the airport. And the guy, the gate, they kept everybody a mile out from the airport. And so I go through immigration. I can't let them stamp my passport because I would never get home. So the lady goes, oh, Mr. Egan, been expecting you. She puts a paper over the passport. She stamps the paper.
I love it. Uh-huh.
And then my bodyguard, the Christian Shiite, arranged through the Arab League. He picks me up. He goes, get in the back of the car. He goes, if I were you, I would duck down.
No shit.
Duck down in the back of the car. We go through the main gate where all the people are waiting for their family and whatever. And he goes, okay, you can sit up now. I go, where are we going? He goes, well, the colonel wants to meet you.
Whoa.
And I said, well, that's good. I'd like to meet the colonel. So we get into Beirut and we come to a fully fortified house, sandbags, machine guns, the whole thing. And we go into this courtyard and the guy goes, you can get out of the car, but don't wander away. I'm like, where the hell am I going, bro? I'm not going anywhere.
I'm scared.
I get out of the car and I'm waiting in this courtyard and I'm just standing there. And eventually the colonel comes out of the house and he goes, hey, Mr. Egan, my brother runs a gas station in Cambridge. And I go, well, the one on Mass Ave, the Shell station in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He goes, yeah. I go, yeah, I go there all the time. I go there all the time. And he goes, and so we became fast friends. And
wow.
So, that was just an amazing trip. And there was so much cultural, but at the end, we didn't get to do our peace ski because if you recall, February of 1993 was the first World Trade Center bombing.
Oh, that's right.
And they drove the trucks with the fertilizer into the parking lot and they blew it up. And it's one of those things that at the 9/11 memorial, they do recognize those that died in 93 as they should.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't, my cameraman dropped out, everybody dropped out of the trip.
Of course.
But my other favorite time was Turkey. We were in Turkey.
The pictures are beautiful that I just saw.
It's amazing. I mean, 91, during the Persian Gulf War, on the border of Iraq, you're like, what? Crazy. And skiing with the Kurds, and they love to ski, and like rolling into a place where the rental shop, the skis are out on the snow, the boots are in the bindings,
ready to go.
The Turks are walking around in their socks trying boots on. If they fit, they skied away.
Whoa.
But the people were beautiful, and we had a great time. It was just one of those trips where everybody really was a great trip. We all got along. But we were with Wade McCoy from Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
And my cameraman who's with me down here right now, Tom Grissom. We had hired this van with no snow tires, and we were heading up this mountain road, and the Turk didn't know how to drive in the snow.
Ooh.
And we get stuck. And we were like, we had been up all night, and we were just like, what the? And the guy pulls a gun, and he points it at my brother's head.
Whoa.
And he says, get out and push.
Weird. The driver?
Yeah, the driver.
Holy shit.
Get out and push. We're like, fuck off, buddy. So he's got the gun, and John, always up for a negotiation, he convinces the guy to take the magazine out of the gun to put the bullets on the dash. He goes, you put the bullets on the dash, I'll push your van. But you're a shitty driver, right? You're a shitty driver, he's telling him. Put the bullets on, you're a shitty driver. And so we get out and we're digging this thing, and we got to put the chains on the tires and all this stuff. And Wade's irritated. Now, Wade's a big guy, okay? Wade McCoy. I mean, he's a big guy, right? And he's tall, and he's trying to get the chains on the tire, and the guy keeps running over the chains, and they get wrapped. Complete shit show.
Awful.
But now the driver's starting to like us a little bit because we're putting some effort in, Wade, this whole time, he's got a bit of a plumber's crack he's working on, right? And he's under the van, and he's got the plumber's crack going, and the taxi driver wants to help him out. So he just takes his hand with no gloves, freezing hand, ice. He goes down to pull Wade's pants up, right? And Wade whaps his head on the top of the carriage of the van. He's all pissed off, and he goes, "Hey, if the full moon rises over Turkey, you let it shine."
Whoa, that's a quick line. Wow, not bad, Wade. Kudos.
Amazing, dude. So a lot of stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Is there anywhere you would not go back to?
Well, when the Berlin Wall came down, the world was a hopeful place.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
It was a hopeful, and we thought the world was going to get better.
Right.
When we jumped off the Berlin Wall with our skis on, we were standing at the crossroads of worldwide events and extreme sports. We didn't even know it. It was just a stunt.
Right.
Day-glow suits, big hair and headbands, right? Coming off the Berlin Wall. But when Warren saw that shot, he knew it represented freedom. Like nothing could have said freedom more than a couple of kids, Americans, hucking themselves off the Berlin Wall to land in a mud puddle.
But it's like you're playing with this deadly object in a way, right?
Yeah. But we represent freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we go off on this worldwide tour of freedom. Yugoslavia before the Civil War, Beirut, Lebanon, Turkey.
Wow.
Right? We're going on this whole theme of if everybody skied, there'd be no war. That was Warren would say in the movies, would go do it the next year, right?
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
But today you wouldn't go. You wouldn't go. You wouldn't ski in Turkey today. Not where we were.
Right.
You wouldn't go to Beirut today.
No, that's for sure.
You wouldn't go. I don't know if I'd go. I wouldn't go to Russia today.
Yeah. Oh no.
And I don't know that it's sad that the world didn't become a safer place. And I think that negativity has kind of bled through the culture a little bit. And that idea, that idealism that we played with back then, that, mountain cultures and people, freedom, I don't know, it's dying a slow death.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I think negativity. I think division. I think the world, unfortunately, has taken on a stance of division instead of unity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the power players just think that division is better for them, and not for the everyday guy. They want to keep us divided, and I just don't agree. I'm a unity guy, and unity always wins. So, it's unfortunate to me that you wouldn't go to some of the places we went to anymore.
I bet the people were amazing.
Yeah, of course. The people, they're living, When we first went behind the Iron Curtain, what did people know of the West? MTV and CNN.
Oh, wow. That's it.
Cable television, man. And music. You listen to music, really soulful conversation. It wasn't a fearful one. And so, that I miss that. I miss that about Warren. I miss that about his movies. I miss that about the movies I see people trying to make today. They miss it. Anybody can string a series of rushes together and lay down some music track. Like, it's a lazy edit, and cheap edit. Tell me something. Tell me something about the people. Tell me something about the place. Tell me something about where you went, why you went, and how it changed your perspective. Now I'll listen to your story. Now I'll watch your video. But until, all the kids, they'll come to me, hey, I'm a pro, and I, this and that. And I say, you look like everybody else, bro. Doing the same move. Everybody, like, I can't tell you apart from the other guy. I don't know if you flipped twice or 10 times, spun 3 times. I don't know anything. Like, look, the only guy who's really figured it all out is Cody Townsend.
Oh, yeah.
He understands the power story. He understands the power of YouTube. He's brought that platform to life. And he's got people watching. He's got controversy. He's got sponsors. He's got celebs. He doesn't have a format. It's a flowy show. Like, that's my example of somebody who figured it out.
I agree.
It's not Instagram. It's, hey, take me somewhere. And you don't always have to win. You don't have to succeed. Not everybody gets a trophy. Cool. Now I'm really interested, right?
Yeah.
He's not always successful. He turns around, goes back. And to me, that what he's done on that platform and how he's done it, yeah, man, my hat's off.
I agree. They are truly phenomenal, and what he's doing is great. We had him on the podcast. It's so cool to learn. And our most popular podcast was his filmer, Bjarne, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it was like
that's sick, right?
The most listened to one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Where have you not skied, but you'd really like to ski there?
Well, we're finally looking at it now. I want to ski in the Drakensbergs in South Africa. It's a 3-week season or something, but that's always been on my mind to go there. It's not like first descent or anything. It's cultural. I want to go and then go dive with the great whites. And so that's kind of on my list. And I'm finally coming back to things like that. It's been a while that sort of motivation has been around for me. It's been gone actually for a bit. But that perked my interest this spring, and we've got a conversation going about it. So, yeah, other than that, I've become a little bit, I like what I know. So, I'm happy in Big Sky. I'm happy in Val d'Isère. I'm happy in Engelberg. I'm happy in Zermatt. I do a better job when I'm comfortable. My clients are safer when I'm comfortable. It's better. I'm not looking for the risk, and I don't want to put others at risk. So these places that I know where I have community. I've got kids in Val d'Isere and family. Like,
oh wow.
So, that stuff for me is more important. And I'm just kind of settling into that these days and just, it's okay. There's a few places I'd like to go, but I'm not dying to get to Japan. I just don't have time to put it into my schedule. And I'm sure I've skied great powder, so I'm sure it's great, but I'm just not something on my list. Yeah.
What's your favorite ski movie of all time?
Hey, well, I would be remiss not to mention one of my own cult classics, Return of the Shred-Eye.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you haven't seen it, you're really missing out.
I haven't seen it. Tell me.
Return of the Shred-Eye, mate. The Shred-Eye master can telly, snowboard, and ski. That was the whole theme of the movie. Everybody had to do all of it.
Whoa.
That was early days. That was like 91, 92, probably.
Wow.
But that's good. I mean, I love ski movies. I think Michael Douglas is crushing. The chairlift one he did was great.
Yeah.
I think he's really anchored in story, and I appreciate what he does as well. I really appreciate his perspective on what he's doing. And, look, Stumpy made great movies. And it's
Greg Stump.
Yeah, and it's hard to say that Blizzard wasn't the best. Everybody would tell you it's best. But, look, the skiing in that movie, it's okay, right? The music's great. And Stump's narration is amazing.
It's so good. It's the storytelling.
Amazing. So when you add that up and you see how his narration pulls you forward and the music pushes you back.
Yeah.
And of course, the skiing, Schmidt and Blake and Hatrip and others, the bump skiing at Telluride.
Yes.
So, look, it's the combination is special, right? And that is the only film I know of where people will tell you where they were when they first saw it.
Yep.
And as a filmmaker and as a guy that was competing at the time with films, with other filmmakers, we were like, but really it's a classic film. Now, I don't know if it's Greg Stump's best movie or not. I don't know what it is. He's made great movies, funny movies, but definitely there's that that I love. If you go back and you watch some of the Blake Miller movies back from no relation to Warren, his movies were amazing. The rap films were amazing. And Eric Perlman, for what he did, was amazing. I mean, the North Face films, we were the first movies that didn't have narration. We were the first music video.
Oh, wow.
And people forget that. That was Eric Perlman did that.
And those are the North Face movies.
Yeah, Extreme 1, Extreme 2. I think maybe Extreme 3 didn't even have narration. It was just music and skiing.
And skiing.
That really is, the foundation of what TGR and Matchstick extended and made better. But Eric Perlman was the first one to do it. And, that came out of his rock climbing and sort of his touch with Damian Sanders and the snowboarders, Ben Tahoe in that time. And what that all looked like, surf and skate and extreme ski. But all of this, none of it happens without the VCR. None of it happens without the VCR and the VHS tape. That was as revolutionary as YouTube, And
tell us why, because people don't know why.
People forget. Like, look, that's the beginning of social media, because the VHS tape is invited into people's homes.
Yeah. And before that, you had to go to the movies, right?
You had to go to the movies. You had to hope it was on Wild World of Sports. It was scheduled TV. But now you got the cassette. Now you can rewind it. Now I have people come up and they sing Return of the Shred-Eye to me. Shred-Eye. I know what happens to Stump. I know what happens to Blake. They regurgitate the lines that we said in the movies. And that VHS tape sat on people's shelves for 10 to 15 years. And people watched them and rewatched them. And that's not happening with Instagram. It's not happening on Facebook. It's not happening on TikTok. It's a hit and it's gone.
Oh, yeah. It's once.
That's why Cody is working That's why what Mike Douglas is working, because they're on formats where you can rewatch them, and it's something to actually rewatch. There's a reason to watch it. So, I owe my whole career to the VHS tape. And, Warren made movies, and his son, Kurt, wanted to make videos. But in that transition, they didn't know what to do. So I went to Warren. I said, Warren, what are you doing with these videos? He goes, I don't know anything about videos. I go, I want to sell them. He goes, where? I go, what? Just give me the territory, East Mississippi. He goes, okay. So now I'm getting a commission on every Warren Miller film sold east of the Mississippi just because it's my territory.
Wow.
Right? And, this is before Blockbuster. This is before chain stores. Every mom and pop store that ordered on a 1-800 number, I was getting credit for those sales. And then I started negotiating rights to the North Face film, my films, Warren's films, and I had worldwide distribution out of my mom's attic. So that's how I launched my media company. We were skiers, but once I started controlling distribution, then I could land the sponsorship, guarantee exposure, make it all work because I had distribution. My television show got launched because I was on regional cable before there was national cable. When they went national, I was grandfathered in. All of a sudden, Prime Sports becomes Fox Sports, and I'm in 100 million homes. Wow. How did that happen? Well, I was just sitting there on Nesson. I had syndicated myself to Madison Square Network, Sunshine Network, these other regional networks, and all of a sudden they merge and I'm in. I own the time. So, that's really what made our career. I mean, John and I can ski. Trust me, we're okay. But it was everything behind it that made it go.
Yeah, and what else were you folks doing to make money? Because I know ski bumming and even being in the movies. How much money are you making being in a Warren Miller movie?
I mean, dude, we're rolling in the dough, mate.
Yeah.
Every day, we were having yard sales to get home.
Exactly. That's what I'm remembering now already, right? Yeah. So you had to find another way.
Yeah, John's a builder. He's always been a builder. He's built condos and homes and is a master builder. Always has done that. And I would be a laborer for him in the off season. But I've run marinas and sailing schools ever since I got out of college. And I've been everything from the petrified farm bread guy to the USA delivery guy, and coaching, always coaching, soccer coach. And always coach. My favorite job was the middle school, soccer coach for 7 years. And
that's so cool.
They called us a soccer factory back then. We had co-ed teams, fifth grade to eighth grade co-ed team beating high school. So I was, I love that, and I love motivating kids. So I've done everything. Warren flew me to Portillo in '89.
Yeah, Portillo, Chile.
Portillo, Chile, and I had heard that if you show up early, Warren would give you the keys to the Audi. So I flew up to Mimosa Beach, LA, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to get the keys to the Audi and I'm going to cruise the beach. So I show up, I go, hey, Warren. He goes, Egan, you're early. I'm thinking, here it comes. I go, yeah. He goes, well, make yourself useful. Sweep the editing room floor.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, maybe I get the key after. If I do a good job sweeping up, I'll get the keys. So, I go to the editing room. It's all 16 mil sitting on the floor. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to throw it away. This is Warren Miller footage. I'm probably on the floor.
Yeah.
Right? So I get this pile. I'm like, Warren, what the hell do you want me to do with this film? He goes, why don't you go make a movie out of it? You're the first kid to sweep the floor. And I was like, seriously? He goes, yeah, I've always wanted somebody to make a movie out of my outtakes. And so I did. I went and made a little film. And he liked it. And he goes, now let me teach you how to narrate.
Oh.
So once we did that, he put me on the road, and I would go to cities 2 weeks before the big show. Mm-hmm. I'd go to a retail store, a ski show, a college, and I would show the little movie. And back then, that launched my tour. So North Face sponsored it, REI sponsored it. I had a little tour.
Well done.
Greg Stump went to colleges. Warren went to theaters, and I went to retailers and ski shows. And we were the major tours of the day. And the only difference between all that was when you came to my show, I narrated live.
Oh, wow.
I learned that from Warren. I think I'm the last guy still to do that.
So Warren used to do that live.
Warren did it live.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He passed that off to me, and I would do my shows live. And Warren was amazing. He when he did it live, he would tell 3 jokes in the montage.
Okay.
And based on the response to those 3 jokes, he would change the whole narration for the rest of the night. It was a family joke. There was an inappropriate joke. There was like an adventure joke, right? And he would see who's in the audience.
Wow.
And then he would kind of go in that track. So I narrated without a script for forever. And the script would kind of evolve each show and go to a different place. And, over the years, the show went from the little movie I made from his outtakes to a slide projector show. When I made my first Egan Entertainment film, I sold sponsorship, but not enough to make the movie. So we took still photos. John and I went around the world. We brought a still photographer and went back to Boston. Ned Gillette used to tour with a slideshow and tell his stories about climbing Everest. And I used to go as a kid to the Ned Gillette show. Okay. You'd sit and listen to tell a story. So I was like, always had this idea in my head. I could tour with just a slide, but why not if I had 6 slide projectors? What would that look like? So I built a slideshow out of 6 slides. I had a computer that had no memory. There was no memory. It recorded tones onto a cassette tape. Those tones would flash, cut, dissolve, or the slide projectors. Okay. And I would time the tones to the music. Okay. And then I had to deliver the movie because I sold the movie to Fisher.
Okay.
I took my slideshow, pointed it at the wall, and got a VHS camera, recorded the slideshow, and handed it in as my movie.
Oh, rudimentary. And they liked it. It was raw.
We won the Crest at the time. Crested Butte always had the International Ski Film Festival, and we got best film of the year, best new film of the year.
Whoa!
And it was Fisher Skis, the Egan Brothers Worldwide and Wild was the name of the show. And so, I understood the power of imagery, the narration, all kind of how it worked together. Warren showed me all that. So, I laugh about it now. Like, I've been going to ski shows and touring. I'll do it again this year for the last 30 years. I'm in London and I'm all over the place with these shows and in my talks and, presentation. Now it's a PowerPoint, but it's really nothing's changed. And so that for me has always funded my falls, the tour, the talks, my presentations. And then I roll into winter and, never return a call since.
The beautiful plan. What challenges you the most intellectually on a daily basis?
I think the internal battle, staying positive. I think freeing myself from the critical mind. I think that is a challenge. My newest project is on racism in sports. And, it's called Transforming the Beautiful Game. It's about the Clyde Best, who's the first Black superstar in England in the TV era, first Black player in the Premier League. And, that's challenging. I'm a white kid from Boston.
Right.
And it's a challenging movie to do. And I embrace it. It's changing my perspective. I think what's challenging in life is to have compassion and empathy. And those are the 2 things that the world can never have enough of. And
agreed.
Whether that's for myself or others. And I think it's super important. And I think that's what challenges me. Can I take that into the world? Can I walk that talk? It's tough. Some days, yes, some days, no. So, I love manifesting the future. I love saying, I'm going to plant this flag in tomorrow and move towards it. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to move in that direction. I'm going to raise that money for that project. I'm going to not take no for an answer. I'm going to make it my job to do that. That looks like a lot of different things for me. That's either selling a heli trip, selling my camps in Montana, making a movie, writing a book. If one guy can do it, another can do it too. And just kind of repeating these things and moving down that road. Like I said earlier, no plan B. This is what I've chosen to do. It's too late to turn back now. Nobody would take me anyways. So it's like keep moving. And so I love that. I love being involved with perspective, changing other people's perspective, and creating collaboration. Working in a collaborative manner is everything. And people forget, you can have success in life, but you have to remember, certain things are special. And it takes that special thing, whatever that thing is, to be successful. You're not always going to duplicate it. So don't just sell it and think you're going to do it again. That's not necessarily true. A lot of my friends have built something and sold it, and now they're consultants. They never got it back.
Right.
And for me, I don't want to leave that space. I want to say in that space, things are special. Certain things, if the world's going to make it manifest itself in the right direction, it will line up. We're sitting here today waiting on a guy that blew us off. That's life. Maybe, okay, he doesn't want to be in the movie. I'm looking at it as a cost savings. I don't have to edit him out of the movie.
There you go.
So that's just the way it is, right? But hopefully tomorrow's guys will show up. So, you can't take this as a win-lose proposition. It has to be, maybe the guy's sick. I don't know. Maybe he has to take care of his kids. I don't know what happened to him. But if he called me, it would be okay.
Yeah.
And he could reschedule, and he hasn't called. But yeah, I think really the biggest challenge in life is compassion and empathy, and for myself and others.
That was beautiful. What's your favorite book or books?
Well, Shackleton's book is amazing, Endurance, right? It's
so good.
Outrageous. And one of the things you notice about in that book is the longer they're on the ice, the more grateful they get. And, that's a sick perspective that they're now doing things that somebody would have done for them at home, and they're recognizing they were ingrates at home. And so I think that book is amazing. The other book, which, I travel with, is Emmett Fox, Around the World in the Year. It's a day-by-day book.
I've heard of that.
It's sick, dude. It's and he's into metaphysics, right? He's into metaphysics and manifesting and, all those sorts of things. And it's based in mythology, the Bible. It's got everything in it. And so I love that, but I'm also a romantic, dude. I'm I'm an emotional disaster, right? So I love, you said books, but I love, the ending to A River Runs Through It.
Oh, amazing.
I still fish the big waters alone, and I know that I shouldn't.
Oh,
But standing by, the dusk of the day, casting a fly, hoping that a fish will rise to meet it. And I remember the ones that have come before me, and he lists the names. They're all gone now. But if you listen to the waters and you listen, you'll hear their voices. And, it's just amazing, right? So when you asked me earlier, why do we go to the mountains? That's why. We go to remember, we go to forget, we go to escape, we go to be. And we're going to fish, I hope, the big waters long after they tell us not to. I just, take me to the top of the Guida Midi, strap them on, and just give me a push, I'll be okay. I'll be all right, and, just to go gracefully, really, right? That's kind of the beauty of the dance. Yeah. So I like books that bring me there, writers that can do that. I'm a Thoreau fan, I've always, Walden, I love it. I don't wish to take a cabin passage. I want to go before the mast, and just those sort of things keep me moving, and so I'm into that. Terrific.
I gave me chills a couple of times there. That the ending to A River Runs Through It is truly special. Who has inspired you the most in your life?
Definitely have been inspired by people who have done something without things. Somebody who accomplished stuff that didn't have a lot. Somebody who has a clear mission and can say it and knows what it is. But for sure, my brother John's been a huge inspiration for me. He's a self-starter. He's built his own life. He's built his own house. He'll work he's still doing it, just right to the end of the day. He's like, if you keep up with him, he's going to tell you, you can't. He's a hard guy, but he's an inspirational guy. But then, there's been so many, and I'm lucky. I've had great mentors. My gym teacher in elementary school was the high school soccer coach. That guy changed my life. He started town soccer with my fourth grade class. When I was in grade school, we played against the junior high. Where in junior high, we played with the high school kids. When I was in high school, I played on his men's team. Like, he just raised the bar. And every time, my Irish got up and I got a red card for kicking somebody in the he wouldn't swear at me. He would just say, it's below you. It's below you. He had a very high bar and very high standard. I've had great coaches and guys that I care about. I'm still in touch with all my coaches, all my soccer coaches, all my ski coaches.
Really? Wow.
I just had an event. They all came to my event this past week. And, I've tried to just do that for kids, do the same. There's not enough of that. And I've had great mentors. My dad was a real mentor for me in a way that, of course, as a kid, you don't realize. We always have these things with our folks, but my dad was a steady Eddie guy. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't really an athlete. He loved to sail and loved to ski, but never rode a bike, never played catch with my dad. He was legally blind in one eye. It wasn't his thing. But I learned a lot. And mainly the things I learned are the things he never said. I just watched what he did and how he did it and his belief system. When my dad finally retired, he moved in with me. He lived with me. He traveled with me. We went to camps. He came to Montana with me and Wyoming with me. When I was the general manager of a ski area, he parked cars in the parking lot for me. And, again, he never really said much, but he did a lot. And we had an understanding, my dad and I. He still sits on my shoulder today. I'm out. I just did a boat delivery from Bermuda back to Cape Cod. And at night,
wow.
Who's he? It's my dad's hanging out. It's like, I love that. So I've been lucky to have a lot of good mentors in my life, people who cared about me, people who told me, look, man, guy like you should never say fuck it. You get stuck into that. You're going to get in a lot of trouble. Like, don't say it. And I remember a guy pulling me aside and telling me, don't stop saying that. And I was like, wow. And I did, and it's like having an uncle. I've got a lot, big family. I mean, huge family. So I've got uncles that will, slap me around, when I was a kid and say, don't be a stranger. Make sure you visit family, you dumbass, just like clear, good instruction, like just stop screwing around, So yeah, I've had a lot of that.
That's great. And in the same vein as being inspired, I'm so curious about your relationship with Warren Miller. I know he was pivotal for you, and I think the other way around as well. So, what was Warren like? What did he teach you? Why was he special? Tell me how do you feel about Warren?
I love Warren. I mean, he look, the Warren Miller name and brand. Without it, I don't have a career. I'm still milking that one, and
right, as you should.
Yeah, of course. And people were scared of Warren. People didn't.
Why?
He was Warren. Like, should I talk to him? Should I not talk to him? What do I say to him? What do you act? But right. Warren was a special guy, and I would ask Warren questions. I would say, Warren, John and I are the first skiers and the only skiers to own our own footage inside of Warren Miller film.
Interesting.
And that's all because I asked him the question. Like, Warren, I see how you treat skiers. I don't love it. Is there another way? He's like, well, what would it look like? And I said, well, what if I organized the trip? What if I hired the cameraman? Would you buy the footage from me? He goes, yeah. I go, and would you give me a guarantee? Would you guarantee so many minutes in the film.
Interesting.
And he did it.
Wow.
But nobody had ever asked him the question before. When I asked him the question about the VHS tape, nobody had asked him. So Warren was that way. Like, if you had the balls to ask him, he'd consider it. You know, Gary Nate, the famed cameraman, tells a great story. When he was a kid starting out, he went and he waited for Warren at the stage door down in Salt Lake City till the show was over. Warren came out the stage door, and Nate went up to him and said, "Hey, I'm Gary Nate. You can either hire me or compete against me. What do you want to do?" And Warren hired him.
Wow.
And that's how Warren was. He was a courageous guy. And if you met him in that space, he honored you. He respected you. That's why I think he really, loved Warren, Scot Schmidt, and why their relationship was really special. You know, they respected each other. And Warren knew that I loved story. He saw that I was a storyteller. He loved that. He loved John, too. He loved John's boldness and John's courageousness and how John attacks the skier. Look, I'm a good skier. I'm okay. I can get down the hill. My brother's a special skier. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's special. There's not many that ski like my brother. And I was just lucky to have the best seat in the house to ski with him, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. But Warren was that way. I mean, Warren was grumpy. He was, codgety. When he was 90, I went to his birthday party at the YC at the Yellowstone Club. And I'm like, "Hey, Warren, it's Dan." He goes, "Egan, what'd you jump the fence?"
No way. How'd you get in here?
How'd you get in? What are you doing? You don't belong in here.
Yeah. I love it.
That's how Warren was. And, he was good to me. He was good to me. And I like to think I was good to Warren, when we made the Ski Bum movie and cared about that movie and the message in that movie. I think it really captured who he was.
How many Warren Miller movies were you in?
Well, the last one was the one nobody saw, Future Retro, because it came out during COVID.
Oh, no.
And didn't tour. But so I think all told, it's in the 15 era.
Wow.
And that's both feature films and videos, because for a while, it's not like Chris Anthony or or Davenport or even Marcus. They're in the feature films. We were in the feature film, and there was always another video that year. So we were getting like 2 runs each year,
I didn't know that.
So that we were in a lot of films in a very short period of time. With, Chris Anthony, I think, has been in 25 films, but that's been over a really long stretch of time. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm what they're doing now with the film and the new making of the movie, the way they're going to do it. I agree with. I think that there's a lot of footage that people want to see. They don't necessarily have to reshoot the film every year. I thought there was a lot of people crying over spilt milk this winter when they lost their contracts, and there was a lot of misguided perception and perspective on a lot of history when people started bantering on social media about their own situation without really much perspective for those who have come before him. I can name 10 directors of photography that have come and go. Nobody's special here.
Right.
Hundreds of skiers have come and gone. Nobody's career is guaranteed. And these days, everybody thinks their career is guaranteed. Like, for what? Why? Make a living on your own, bro. Like, get out there and have to get after it without, being on the gravy train. See what it's like. That's where I come from. I have no sympathy. And I think the Warren Miller Film Tour is the most special thing ever. And if you've worked for Warren Miller and then tried to take down or talk bad about what it did for your career after 25 years, I would lose a lot of respect for people. Like, look, Warren Miller has 9 top grossing films on the top 20 all-time documentary list.
Really? Damn.
Nobody's ever done that. Warren Miller is the most prolific filmmaker of all time in any genre. There's no American filmmaker that made more movies than Warren Miller Entertainment. So let's have some perspective here. let's keep the thing going. It's special. And if somebody's lost a contract, go get another one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get over yourself and get another job, and stop taking the piss out of the thing that made you who you were. That irritates me, dude. I'm fired up about this. And I remember the day I got fired from Warren Miller Entertainment. Okay.
Oh, you're fired.
I used to oversee 21 cities on the tour from Chicago East. They were all my cities.
That's exhausting.
I was the ad agency for 21 shows. Okay.
Uh-huh.
One summer, right about now, the intern called me up. The intern. The kid goes, "Hey, Mr. Egan, I don't really know you. I know you've been with the company a while, but I'm the intern, and my boss told me I'm supposed to tell you." I said, "Who are you?"
Yeah, what?
He's like, "I'm the intern." I go, "Okay, Mr. Intern, what do you got for me?" He goes, "Well, they want me to tell you." I'm like, "Oh, this is not going to be good." You're taking all your accounts in-house. And I go, "Dude, what's your name?" He goes, "Blah, blah." I go, "I got to tell you something, man. You're going to go far in life." I go, "You're the man." I go, "You got some balls."
Yeah.
Yeah. One, you're following directions to the T. The kid, I don't know, your boss is a jerk, but you're doing it, mate. And I said, "I respect you." I go, "I really do, man. You just kicked me out of the club, you know?" I go, "Good luck, bro. Like, if you need anything, give me a call, you know?"
Yeah.
I hang up, and I'm thinking to myself, well, they long since fired Warren, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
There had only been a handful of still left. Kim Snyder, Tom Day, myself, maybe one other. I said, what would Warren do? Warren would write a book. And that's when I wrote down the title of my book right then.
Oh.
I said, Warren would write a book. You know, his book was always, you know, Wine, Woman, and Warren, lurching from one disaster to another, right?
That's right.
And I'm like, what would Warren's been here before. I'm here now. There's nothing new to this. I'm not going to be mad at Warren Miller Films. Whatever. You know, I just want to be on the merry-go-round one more time. Like, that's all I'm trying to do in life. You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm not going to be pissed off about this. I've had an awesome run. So, you know, when I see people like lose a sponsorship and moan about it, I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? You just had the luckiest ride of your life. Somebody gave you free skis, paid your ass to go heli skiing. Now you're pissed off about it? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, but you wrote the book. And so tell us about this book. Yeah, so tell us about the book. It's a great transition.
No, I wrote the book 30 Years in a White Haze because I can barely remember any of it, you know? People always told me I should write about the Elbrus trip. And I never wanted my story to end with that trip. That trip is the beginning of my story. It's the beginning of my story, not the end. I don't like reading when you ask me my favorite books, it's really not about mountain books where there's disaster on K2 and that defines their life and they missed every kid's birthday. Like, I don't give a shit about that. And so, you know, that's what I did. 30 Years in a White Haze is the John and Dan Egan story and my story, my perspective of that story. And, you know, it's all in there, the good, the bad, the ugly, the divorce, the ups, the downs, you know, my brothers and I relationship, good, bad, mad, glad, and sad. It's all in there. We cover the history of extreme skiing. The roots of extreme skiing is in the hot dogging movement. It's not in the mountaineering movement. It's not in the alpinism. We're not Europeans. There's no alpinism in our VHS videos. People can pretend and wear, you know, backpacks if they want, but that's really, we were just a bunch of kids jumping off cliffs for the movies. That's what we were. We weren't mountaineers. And some of us became that, but we weren't that then.
Right.
And I draw those roots all the way back to Stein Eriksen, you know, and his flips and
so sick.
And right up until, you know, really where it went. And it's just a story of, you know, of traveling around. And again, like wins, W's and L's, man, wins and losses. And, you know, more good days than bad. And then that's how it went. Yeah.
A quote I've heard you say about the movie is that, you know, you explain in the movie how skiing almost killed you and it definitely saved you. Could you speak more to that? What are some good examples?
Well, I think Elbrus is the example. You know, it almost killed me, and the divorce almost killed me, I'm lucky. I got divorced and I didn't end up in jail. Like, I didn't want to be divorced. So and I'm Irish. So I got emotion. I think that, look, not everybody's out to make Solomon soup. They don't know how to do it. Like, some people get involved with your life because they think it's cool, right? But
right.
No reason to be involved with anybody. And they don't really know what's on the other side, what's behind the curtain, how hard it is. You have to wake up every day and get this done at whatever level. I'm an old guy now, so like, Jesus, it's just another world. So, it's the book kind of sums that up in my mind. And I think that quote sums it up. It's like, and Warren lived like that. If you're willing to take something to the limit, you can't have it all. This is what I say in the Warren Miller film. A lot of people want it all, but you can't have it all. So let's start there. And a lot of people, they don't understand the journey. They might want to be part of the journey, but when they're not getting what they want out of the journey, then all of a sudden, so a lot of people like Warren and others, and we're misunderstood because they don't understand what we're really doing. And if you could stand back and see what we're really doing, it'd be easier to understand. But when you're part of it, it looks like chaos. It looks like confusion. It looks like nonstop travel. It looks like you don't know where the next shoe's going to drop. Like, all that's all true. But that's not, I didn't sign up for a desk job, and I'm not punching a clock, and this is what I do. So,
and when you say that, what are you really doing?
Well, what I'm doing is I am telling stories now of people, of stories that I think help others with perspective. My newest podcast is the 603 podcast, Everything New Hampshire. The people, places, and things of the Granite State.
Nice.
And I think, anchoring in a place with those stories is important for the state and important for me. I gain perspective when I learn about people making a living in the Northeast. The movie, the Clyde Best documentary, tackling the unfortunate and disastrous topic of racism and the struggle that still exists today. It's unbelievable and really inexcusable. So, that's what I'm doing, and I'm mentoring. I like to think inspiring. I'm helping others see something maybe they in themselves for their own lives, and that can be anything from a kid to an adult. I've got a few friends that when I'll be over in France and they'll come up and they'll whisper, they still think you're going to teach them how to ski. I'm not there to teach anybody to ski, bro. I want to teach people to think. I don't give a shit if you carve your turn or not. Like, if that's your thing, okay. But how do you see the world, and why are you so wrapped up in whether it's a good or a bad turn? That's what I'm interested in. And, they call me the skiing psychiatrist. Like, ooh, that's what I'm into. Like, what are you thinking about? Why is that so important to you? What would happen if it wasn't important to you? I teach people to skid, dude. I mean, carving, we've overtaught carving. Don't carve down the big couloir. Like, please skid your turn. Like, I saw that you had Johnny Collinson on, and he's an animal, right? So
yes,
that dude can ski, bro. And I was, he came out with the Red Bull, and we had a day together, and he shredded the big couloir. Just freaking lit the place up.
He's so good.
And I was like, I skied down to him, and I said, dude, that was amazing. I never would have thought to ski like that. And he started to laugh. And I said, what's up? He goes, I wouldn't have thought to ski the way you did. And, it's generational, right? It's so funny. And, but it's amazing. So, I think, what are we thinking about? How we think about it? How does it affect? How do we manifest the future? How do we live, sort of less judgment? That's what I'm doing.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're doing. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is my first exposure to you and your brother was, I'm reading now, was from 1990. You guys had that cornice break segment, and turns out it was an Extreme Winter, one of the Warren Miller movies. And there's some people say it's the most viewed ski segment of all time. Would you please tell us that story? You got to tell us that story.
Yeah, it's amazing that we're alive. Were
you the first one or the second one too? Like, because the first guy seemed like no big deal.
It snowed for a week, and
where were you? Start
Grand Targhee.
And take Grand Targhee, Wyoming.
And it pounds for a week. One of those storms where you just can't go out. And we always showed up every shoot a week early because we knew they'd put us up, feed us, and give us free lift tickets. Right.
There you go.
We showed up early. We lied to the marketing person that we had a cameraman with us, and we went skiing. Right. Mm-hmm. So when the camera guy showed up, the real guy showed up. We had to sit for a week because there was no snow, and there was too much snow. And Gary Nate was the guy. That day, there was so much wind during that storm. There were cornices everywhere. And that wasn't the only cornice that broke that day. There was another cornice when we were skiing off of Peaked Mountain that broke, and there were three of us skiing, and the guy in the middle fell in the over all those cliffs. So we were looking at Mary's, and we were looking at that ridge line, and Gary wanted to shoot it. But the crazy thing is that Gary went up the lift to shoot it from across the valley. We started to hike Mary's.
Okay.
The ski patrol went with the camera guy. He didn't go with us. Nobody told us that ridge is in a straight line. Nobody said there's probably a cornice up. Like, I'm not calling out the patrol, but like nobody said boo to us. The camera went with the camera, the still, the motion. They all went to shoot across the valley. We had radios. We hike up there, and Gary says, "Ski along the edge."
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll go first. John's going to follow me, and I'm skiing down the ridge. And you got to remember, we're on the Rossi No Wantums, right? Remember the No Wantums?
I don't.
The Rossi Quantums. They had the see-through tip, right? They had a tip. We called them the No Wantums because they were so soft. The noodles, And so we're skiing on the No Wantums, and we're going down the ridge, and all of a sudden I see daylight.
Oof!
I'm like, there's a hole. So I jump over the hole, and I land on the cornice. I didn't know it was a cornice.
Right.
So I'm skiing a little further. I see another hole. And every time I see these holes, I'm kind of heading towards the outer ridge.
Right.
I jump over the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And that time when I landed, the cornice broke. Now that cornice, it went like quick, like a zip. And it went the size of two Mack trucks. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Two big trucks.
Yep.
And I don't really realize what happened because it feels like to me I hit a wind drift because I'm actually on the piece that's broken skiing back uphill. I'm like double pole planting, as I always do, to get up into back on the mountain, but it felt like a wind drift.
Mm-hmm.
John, he starts yelling, but there's nothing new about that.
Yeah.
Since I was a little kid. Like, I don't listen to that shit. Like, he starts screaming, right? And I keep skiing. I just keep skiing. And John keeps yelling. Yelling, stop. And finally, I'm like, what does he want me to stop? This is epic, right? So I turn around, I stop. He goes, turn around, dude. And, his the tracks go and they disappear. The cornice broke. And then you see his tracks come back. And he turned in midair. They call it the hand of God turn.
Yes.
And right when the thing broke, he's heading towards the edge. And for a moment, he stems, thinking maybe he would stop. Mm-hmm. But realizing he would never stop in time, he pushed. And that push is what saved his life. He was able to push and get one pole, and he kind of airplane turns in the air over the falling piece of snow. It is epic. It's unbelievable. What's unbelievable about all that, one, is John's athleticism.
Yes.
Two, the fact that sometimes you've got to push and not stop. A lot of life lessons in that. And two, Gary Nate didn't flinch the camera.
He held it steady.
Never flinched the camera. Like, holy shit. He didn't like stop. He didn't look. He was ice cold. And so he nails that, right? And John's freaking out. And I'm like, I'm freaking out now. I'm like, what the hell happened? So there's a shot in the movie. If you go back and you watch the segment, the full segment, the cornice breaks. And later there's a shot of John in his yellow one-piece suit flying through the air, exploding a tree. He had so much energy after that. He just told Gary, point the camera at that tree. I'm going to explode it.
Whoa.
And he just hit this wind drift and like body checks the tree. And just the whole thing is a great shot, right? And I'm sitting there going, we've totally lost the plot. Like I can't even think straight. I'm done. Yeah. And John still wants to keep going, as he does. And it was just really amazing. But John's athleticism, he's quick to think on his feet, the ability to not freak out. It's really a great shot. It is, from my understanding, the most viewed Warren Miller shot of all time. And that says a lot for all. There's been a lot of great footage over the time, but I don't know that we've ever captured anything at Warren Miller Films that summed up how close to the edge we were living, for anybody where it wasn't a disaster. So I think that's one of the reasons why it continues to show so well.
Well, I think it's a really great metaphor for your ski career and your brother's ski career and what you guys have been through in your life. So it really is on the edge. And I hugely appreciate you being here. Dan, that's all I've got for you, man. Do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share here at the end of the show?
No, I appreciate what you're doing. I love seeing all the different guests you have, my friends on. It's really great to have these stories and these personalities. I appreciate you and your background and all the stuff you've done. We don't have too many people that smart in our industry. We need a few adults we need a few adults in our industry. Really, that's what I say. We're an industry full of misfits. We'd chop each other's arm off to get first tracks, and nice to have somebody with a brain sitting behind there, like putting that into perspective. So appreciate you and what you're doing, and thanks a lot.
Well, I appreciate you saying all that. I'm blushing. And Dan, it's great talking to you today. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, my friend.
Thank you so much for listening to the SnowBrains podcast. If you liked this podcast, please share with your friends and family, and please subscribe. To find out more about SnowBrains, please visit us at snowbrains.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at SnowBrains. This episode of the SnowBrains podcast was edited by Jared White and Ben Hout. Music by Chad Crouch. I'm your host, producer, and creator, Miles Clark.